Good day, folks. Welcome back to another time video. Today we're going to carry on with the big fly theme, and I don't fish a lot of big flies, so this fall I had this thing in my box. The indicators just weren't happening, and so I started stripping this on a type 1 in 2 to 3 feet of water, and it was smash fest. It's not exactly a new fly per se. It's kind of just a rabbit zonker variation. I'm using squirrel, pine squirrel zonkers, but it works, and you'll probably want to have some for ice off, late fall, and likely summertime. This thing will do well too. The majority of my experience with it is in the fall. So we'll go ahead and get started here. Pick your favorite streamer hook. You'll want a size 6 to 10 is primarily what I was fishing. 8 is probably the most common that I fished. And some of you may recognize the fly from an Instagram post. I posted this thing absolutely demolished one day, and it put in some serious work. So I just grabbed that zonker at the back here, and the first couple I fished came apart right at the back there, so that was kind of the weakest link that I found fishing it. So now I just throw a dab of super glue on the bottom side, and that'll soak into those wraps, and it stops that zonker strip from sliding back on you. And now I'm just going to grab a dubbing twister and spin up a dubbing loop. So you're going to want a decent size loop for this, and we'll just close that off, tie it back to the rear, and then scoot our thread up. Leave yourself about 2 to 3 hook eye lengths at the front, and then I'm gonna grab 3 or 4 pretty decent clumps of Arizona semi-seal. This is olive. I fished this thing in olive, maroon, and black. Now, whether it was the days that I fished it or whatever, olive seemed to come out the champ. And this fall I probably went on a 2 or 3 week span where this was like doing a large portion of my fishing, even if the fish were taking stuff under a bobber. I was still probably fishing this because it was super fun to fish. Late fall, your hands get a little cold stripping, but when you're catching fish, it's okay. So I'm just going to brush that semi-seal out. So I've got a nice buggy dubbing loop, and now I will just wrap this, preening back those fibers as I go. And you want a nice bushy body, and that's why I do the dubbing loop, just because if you just twist dubbing on, it's not as strong and doesn't last as long, nor do you get the super long buggy fibers. So take that dubbing brush up and tie it off. Trim that out of there. Sweep all this back and just tie back on it. That's just going to secure everything that much more. And then I've got just enough room to do what I'm gonna want up front here. All right, so now I'm gonna take this dubbing brush and just kind of sweep these fibers back. And you want to kind of split them up top. So those are split pretty decent the way they are there. Now I'm just going to grab this zonker, and I've got just enough. Pull that somewhat tight, and then just grab a good hold of it right there. And make sure that's somewhat centered. Looks good. Now, if you haven't tied a lot of these, leave yourself a little extra zonker, more than I did. Make things a little bit easier, but that worked out pretty good actually. All right, so I want this ramp here somewhat smooth. All right, just like so. That all sweeps back together and gets a lot of movement. Okay, next is going to be more squirrel. So I'm gonna just prep this little piece here. Now this can be a little bit of a pain in the butt, so there's a couple different ways you can do it. You can actually tie in, because it's squirrel, you could tie it in here and just do 2 or 3 wraps. Would be easy enough to do if you're not comfortable with the dubbing loops. If you are, then just form a loop like so, and then with the squirrel still on the hide, kind of pull it through here, and then the straighter piece you have of squirrel, the easier this step is. But there we go. So I've got that squirrel. I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not, but it's chilling in there. And then I'm just going to come in with the scissors and very gently, while that's chilling in there, trim off that hide. Okay. And I'll just get these fibers so the tips are as far out as I dare to push them. Kind of like so. Again, oh, and I just wrecked my loop trying to show you. Well, you know what happens when that happens. That's what I get for trying to show you when it was already done. Anyhow, we will redo that. And find myself another chunk here. As I say, the straighter piece you can get, the easier it will be. If you kind of tug on them, they'll straighten out a little bit for you. I think that was sitting in there right. This is the trickiest part of the fly. And it's not normally as tricky as I'm making it look, but the minute you try to do it on camera, that's what happens. All right. Okay, so we've got round 2 of that now. I'm not going to try and show you. I'm going to spin this first. Forgive me. Okay, so now that that's spun up, I'll bring it up front there and you can probably see what we got going on. Just a nice bushy squirrel-filled loop. And that's going to make the head on this fly. So don't be shy when you're wrapping these. I try to give it some decent amount of tension. Just like so. Trim that out of there. And then it looks buggy, but if you just sweep that all back, you should be able to just create a neat little head up front. Like so. Give that a trim. Come in. Brush that squirrel out. And there you have it. Simple. And again, probably variations of this thing have been around for years. Zonker style tie. But put those materials together and strip it and hang on, because it does some damage. So that's all there is to the little stripper leech. Thank you very much for watching. Give us a thumbs up if you liked it. Subscribe if you haven't. And until the next one, cheers and tight lines.